Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Selena, I'm a clinical psychologist, and let's jump right into it.
This is not my fault. This is no one's fault but hers.
I think Stephanie is trying to capitalize on it. Remember what I said my first impression of Stephanie was?
It was awesome, she was so nice, we went out to eat, we hung out for like 7 hours. She had like little gifts for me. She had like this nice little champagne and little snacks and a nice card.
My first impression of Stephanie was very self-serving.
You knew that you didn't like me at the time, but you still wanted to collab so that our collaboration videos would get views. Who's really self-serving?
This bit is really interesting because it shows how quickly Nikocado can change his mind about a person, right? Or maybe how unstable his emotions and his mood really is. It seems like he can almost idolize a person and then discard them completely based on how he feels that other person has treated him. So I can imagine that if a person treats him nice, he might have a tendency to, again, idolize someone and see them as all good, which might have happened in the beginning where he noticed how nice Stephanie is, how warm she is, how welcoming she is, and then he had so many good things to say about her, right? And then the moment that he felt rejected by her, or his own insecurities kicked in and he misinterpreted something, she all of a sudden became this villain, right? And he then sees her as this person that is very self-serving, that he never really liked. And yeah, it's quite interesting, right? Because a person that is really healthy and secure would not do such a thing. They might have a differentiated view on someone and say, okay, I think Stephanie is a nice person, but there are certain things that I don't agree with, or there are certain things that hurt me. But apart from that, I can still see that she's human and that she's good. And it doesn't seem like Nikocado is really doing that. It's like a person is either all good or all bad. I'm not diagnosing him with anything that would be unethical, but it can be an indicator of certain personality disorders, especially cluster B personality disorders, which are borderline, histrionic, antisocial, and narcissistic personality disorder, where you can see a lot of unstable relationships and unstable mood, and also a tendency, again, to idolize or villainize someone. Yeah, and those disorders usually stem from childhood and from disrupted attachment relationships where a person endured a lot of trauma. So it might be that we're seeing some evidence of that here. But again, I'm not diagnosing, I'm just trying to understand with the conceptualizations that I have.
I didn't really like her
I love Stephanie Soo
because I tell it like it is.
This is where I'm going to be reading some text messages that I had prior to filming my first video. And the reason that I didn't read it is because I didn't want to get other people involved. I didn't want to just drag people into the mess. And I also felt like after knowing who Nick was as a person, that I just didn't want to put anyone else in his line of fire. But Nick, you didn't care, and you used Zach's text messages from months ago out of context and manipulated them without his permission. Here's my problem with you sharing those messages between you and Zach from 3 months ago. And I think that this is a problem that everyone should be alarmed by, is that you didn't ask Zach for that permission, and a lot of it was taken out of context, where he said, I wonder who her actual friends are. This didn't help your lie at all. This didn't help your narrative at all. But you put it in there because this is yet again another way for you to manipulate other people's words that they say in private. And then you use it and put it on the internet to humiliate and hurt other people.
It seems to me like Nikocado is doing the same thing that he tried to do with Stephanie in his own conflict with Veronica, and now he's doing that by involving Zach in the situation with Stephanie. It seems like he really has a tendency to want to triangulate people and to have other people be on his side so he can feel like he is in the right about thinking something about a person. And in a way, by making Stephanie the villain and by rejecting her, he can feel temporarily secure and in control of the situation. And again, this is incredibly harmful to Stephanie in this situation, and before that to Veronica, because someone is basically bullied out of the group. They're being ostracized and they don't belong to the rest of the group, right? That Nikocado in a way puts together. And this is a very common bullying technique, actually, where someone who tends to be more assertive or sure of themselves or dominating will try to get other people on his side, and as a result of that, naturally make the person that is not in the group excluded and feel unwanted.
I've obtained Zach's permission to read these text messages aloud today.
She told me in my apartment, she told me in the car, she told me at her house that we were going to discuss Veronica on my channel because she egged it on so rich off camera.
These happened the night when I got home from the collapse. Zach said, I honestly don't think he cares that he's gonna look bad. Also, I don't think he gets it either. I was telling him the whole time after how it was going to be perceived, but he didn't seem to get it and just chalked it up to his audience being dumb. And I responded, but all audiences are always smarter than the YouTuber thinks. I don't know why he thinks that. And then Zach said, that's what makes me think he doesn't care. It's so crazy too because I asked him privately if he was gonna go in about Veronica and he said no. And I responded with, oh my God, he didn't want me to get a f***ing heads up. I don't know if he doesn't care at all about me or if he thinks I'm a literal idiot. Okay, but deadass now, since we know where he stands, does he actually like me or did he just want a f***ing video to try and expose me? I'm literally asking myself the same exact question. So he didn't say anything to you? Our asses got played. I asked him so many times what you guys would even talk about because he always said he'd stay away from Veronica because he knew it would make you uncomfortable. That's why I was so surprised when he said you wanted to clear the air and talk about it. He made it look like you really wanted to talk about her so bad. You planned the discussion ahead of time.
It does seem like involving Zach's opinion or these text messages can illuminate a lot about what was going on, right? And I can't help but to feel like there's some manipulation going on when I see these text messages and what Nikocado has told Stephanie and Zach in the background and what actually happened. It seems like Nikocado's either twisting the narrative a lot or changing his mind very drastically, which is really confusing to Stephanie and to us as the viewer as well. And yeah, it's difficult to take someone by their word, right? When they say something and they do another thing. That person is not trustworthy at all, and it's difficult to engage with them in any productive way. It would make me feel incredibly betrayed if I knew that a person is telling me something and then they have another thing in mind just to make an expose video or just to farm off of the drama. So if Stephanie felt quite betrayed or hurt by that, then I do really understand why that would be the case. Because again, no one wants to be treated like that, right? If someone says something to you, you want to take them by their word and not have them change their opinion or their act once the cameras are on.
He said to me yesterday that all the comments are going to talk about shukbangs, so it would be stupid to act like we don't even know. And in my head, I'm thinking, the last thing I want to do is him bring up some shady shit about Veronica, like the hood comment, which he did in his video.
Have you heard that in the hood, bitch? That when you look at yourself with the viewfinder, you're narcissistic? I've heard that all over the hood.
And try to make it seem like I'm a 12-year-old giggling about it as if I hate her. So I said, yeah, I'm down to acknowledge that it did happen and that's our first interaction and I don't have any negative feelings about me and you about the situation. But he made it seem like it was a Veronica video. And he said he had a title in mind. So what are we gonna do? You're saying that I wanted to talk so much about Veronica, but then you told Zach that you weren't gonna talk about Veronica and I would be uncomfortable. And you knew that. Which one's the truth?
But my regular audience, they know that I go like this. You go like this, I'll take it out. And that's what I tell everybody. I told her the minute she was in my kitchen. And she didn't even ask me at the end of the video, oh, could you take that part out actually? But you know, I'm really uncomfortable. She didn't even say anything. She didn't even say anything.
And this is a text message that Zach sent me on Sunday, December 22nd. This was a day after my video went up. And he said, I do remember telling him you were uncomfortable right after the camera stopped rolling and how it would look bad because he kept badgering you for information. We both also know how Nick would have reacted if I had turned his camera off or interrupted the video.
It's quite powerful to have Zach's insight into the situation at all, because if we have more data points or more persons saying the same thing about a person, then it can make it easier for us to assume that that is actually going on. Because quite often it's difficult to tell what exactly happened when it's just a one person against another person situation, right? Like Nikocado and Stephanie Soo. It can be more telling when we have Stephanie and Zach say the same thing. But then again, we do also need to keep in mind that they might have quite a similar personality, which might make them interpret certain things the same way. But then again, for me, it is telling that more people are claiming the same thing. And that it seems like Zach also had this fear of saying what is actually on his mind, because it seems like he also got the impression that he couldn't really say what he wanted. And that is quite telling, right? It seems like more people get the impression that Nikocado has this scary or dominating aura around him that would make it difficult for other people to say what they actually want to do.
What people see of Stephanie Soo on the internet is not the Stephanie Soo that people off camera know her as.
I think like people like the fact that you're just this crazy person and that's just really who you are. Like whatever you guys see on her mukbang, because I've been on her mukbang before, well, this bitch is fucking insane. She's just rambling like a maniac.
Dude, on and off the camera, that's why we all love her, is because you're not fake. You are who you are. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I don't take your word for it over theirs.
Again, it could be good evidence if we have more people say the same thing, which in this situation would be that podcast that she joined. But I know that Stephanie herself has critiqued Nikocado using other people's opinion as evidence, so I'm not quite sure how much evidence it is that other people have claimed that about her. Just something that I'm questioning, but it can be helpful for us to know that more people are perceiving her as authentic on camera and off camera. But yeah, we don't know 100%, right? But it is helpful to hear more people say the same thing.
In Stephanie's video, saying she doesn't know how to say no to me, she's so afraid for it. She said no to me lots of different times. She said no to me over dinner.
Look at what happened when I did say no to you, when I was terrified of you. This is in my first video. I said, hey guys, sorry I've been in and out of sleep all afternoon. You said you just now realized? Stephanie, I've been sitting here for 5 hours when you were going in and out of sleep. You should have picked up the phone and given me a call, not leave me hanging. You didn't like it when Veronica did that to you. And then during this group chat, when you said, awesome, when would you like to reschedule? Prior to doing that, you had already texted Zach privately saying, notice how her text to us didn't mention rescheduling? LMAO. I'm exposing her tonight.
Okay, well, let's reschedule. I said that because I knew she wouldn't want to reschedule, so I was literally playing with her. I'm like, I was literally texting, I was calling Zach at the same time. I told him, I was like, I know she's not going to say she's going to reschedule.
Yeah, that seems incredibly shady, right? To message one thing to Stephanie and seem like he's fully on board with making a video, and then to tell Zach that he wants to expose her. It does give me the impression that it's more about a certain gain that he can get from the situation, which is to make another video, and that in actuality he feels differently around a person. And I get it from a business standpoint that sometimes you're working together with people that you might not completely agree with to create a certain product, but especially in their situation, it seems like it was quite important to like someone to be able to create a video, and for him to then not say that to Stephanie's face and communicate with Zach that he wants to make an exposed video. That seems quite insincere and dishonest. And again, you don't want to have the impression that a person says one thing and then actually thinks another thing, right? How are you going to take them by their words? So yeah, it's a very frightening relationship or friendship where you feel like you have to walk on eggshells, or you have to be afraid that a person is actually thinking and doing another thing than what they're telling you. Yeah, it makes it quite difficult to have an actual, genuine, sincere relationship with someone.
And then you proceeded to post all of these on social media.
I did it because I was saying, look, I have people on my side.
So look at what happens when I say no to you.
I was getting lightheaded and scared, thinking about having to put eye drops in my eyes. I'm a scaredy cat. I scream and cry if my finger gets poked from a king crab leg. I am a very timid, like, scaredy cat type of guy. Emotional manipulation is not what I did to you.
It might be that Nikocado is really perceiving himself like that, like the timid cat that he said he was. However, it is not his place to judge whether Stephanie felt emotionally manipulated or not. Because of course there are certain characteristics or things that you need to qualify for, but in a way it is also subject to Stephanie's perception. Someone else might not feel emotionally manipulated because in a way they might be more resilient to it or have more awareness, whereas Stephanie felt like she was emotionally manipulated. So I think it's a bit of a tricky situation or a wrong move from Nikocado's side to say that he didn't emotionally manipulate her. I mean, it might well be that that was not his intention, so he could say, it was not my intention to do that. I don't think that I engaged in ways that would be emotionally manipulative, but I hear you when you're saying that you felt emotionally manipulated because of these and these things that I did. And what would be a healthy approach after that is to really hear Stephanie for what she's saying and try to see if there's anything that he can improve about it. Yeah, but it can be quite dismissing to just hear someone else say, I have not emotionally manipulated you. Although he might be thinking that and he might be right with it, but I'm not making a claim if he's right or wrong. It can just be incredibly dismissive to say, no, this didn't happen. And it could be a sign of gaslighting, but I don't want to assume that it is gaslighting, which would be a deliberate attempt to change Stephanie's perception of reality. It might well be that he's actually thinking that, but maybe he also consciously wants to make Stephanie perceive it like he did not do that, although he knows that he did it. So we don't completely know that.
There have been a lot of questions about my first video. A lot coming from Nick and a lot of his viewers asking me why I felt the need to put in his clips about the Me Too movement from a video that he deleted from his channel. And the reason that I felt that is because, like I said in the first video, it was a pattern of behavior. This is the definition of pattern of behavior. I never implied that Nick sexually harassed me. I never implied that Nick did anything illegal. I never implied that Nick committed crimes towards me or towards anybody else. I feel like a lot of us run off patterns. I don't know if I'm the only one, but if someone makes a mistake, you forgive them. But if they continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, and they hurt people every single time, I think that's very dangerous, and I think that's very alarming.
I remember this bit where she was talking about patterns, and she was showing this video where Nikocado had this trip to New York, I think, and he wanted to see this other person. Just a little summary of what he had said or what I remember. So he met with this person, I think they went out to dinner, and Nikocado was saying that he put a lot of effort into that evening, that he was getting ready and that he saved a lot of time for meeting this other person, and that he felt let down because nothing happened out of that encounter, like nothing sexual or intimate came out of that situation. And Stephanie was making the claim that he seemed quite predatory in that situation, that he was very demanding, and that she felt the same way. And I did wonder in that bit, how much of a pattern is it really if we have these two data points, one being herself and one being a recall from Nikocado, which might have been more dramatic. So I didn't really get her point of seeing that as evidence for a pattern. I would need to see more data points to really claim that it is a pattern. But in case it is true, it can indeed indicate that if a person tends to do something more often, that they will do it again.
I did get an email and a DM from someone. They had met Nick in New York, and they showed me pictures of their Snapchat between him and Nick talking about that date. Nick had a date in New York City, and he claims that he didn't belittle the Me Too movement, and he was a little bit upset that he had spent a lot of time and perfume and money on food for this guy that he met in New York, and they didn't do anything afterwards. He said, Nikocado did it to me. I am that boy that little Me Too video is about. I would love to talk to you about it. We have a lot in common. I have all the screenshots as well. And then he showed me screenshots of Snapchat and a picture that he took with Nick. And I said, hey, I got your email. I'm so sorry that something like this is how we're connecting for the first time, but I'm so sorry for what happened in New York. I'm sorry you had to watch a video being made about you like that because the night didn't go as planned. Are you okay? He said, yes. I really was not in the moment. I was so scared because he kept making all these posts about how he was going to tell this big story about me. And I kept begging him to not post anything about me because unlike him, I'm just a regular person with no level of fame. In the original video, he showed me, but with an emoji over my face, and proceeded to call me a loser. It was just so crazy because like he did to you, he made me feel so comfortable in person when we first met. We talked all night, and then when I left, he gave me a hug and said it was nice meeting you, and I said it was nice meeting him too. So I thought we left on good terms. Then on Snapchat, he told me he was pissed that I didn't hook up with him. And I was so confused because I thought we left happy. And then he went and filmed that rant video about me, and he got so much hate for it, he took it down. And then he made another one about me, but once again got hate and took it down. But it's scary because we filmed a regular video, so he has that footage of me, in addition to some naked pictures. I was so happy when it was all over because he could have destroyed me, and still could. I personally think that that was highly relevant to Nick's pattern of behavior, and if I hadn't made that video, I wouldn't have spoken to this guy from New York. I wouldn't have known that he felt exactly the way I felt, scared, confused, threatened, bullied.
Okay, I guess this kind of clears the question that I had put into the room before. Now we know that that person that was involved in that situation did actually feel quite scared and betrayed. And I find it so hurtful to hear that the impression that he got in that situation was so different than what he heard from a third party, and by looking at his story, which is that he thought everything went well. And then he looked at his story and heard from other people that he was actually trying to expose him. And that is really scary, right? We could see a certain power dynamic at play, which is that Nikocado has this large following. He has a lot of people that adore him, that listen to him, which would make it really scary to be in the position of that other person who doesn't have a huge following, who maybe wants to stay more private. It can be incredibly intimidating and scary. Again, if a person wants to misuse their power, which it seems like Nikocado was trying to do. And I'm glad that he didn't get a lot of positive reactions from that, because that in a way discouraged him from keeping those videos there. But yeah, it's incredibly scary. You don't want to feel like someone can just expose these parts about you that might not even be true. Yeah, and I also noticed that Stephanie felt touched by what she was reading. It seems like she saw herself in that other guy's position, having gone through quite a similar situation. So it's good that they could connect over that. Although it is adversity, we do sometimes find genuine connection by sharing adversity with other people. So I'm happy to hear that they recognize the struggles of each other, having gone through a similar situation, and it's good that they reached out to each other. Okay, everyone, that does it for this episode. Let me know what you thought about my analysis and about the video. Also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one. It definitely helps me out a lot. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.